This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 148 of the Dressage Radio Show, brought to you with the generous support of Draper Therapies. Hello and welcome to the program, coming to you as usual from Lexington, Kentucky, where the grass is greening here in the bluegrass. It really is springtime here. I hope the grass is growing where you are. The horses are shedding their coats, and it certainly is beautifully warm now, as I'm sure you're all getting ready to start competing outdoors this season and putting those indoor arenas behind us and the struggles of winter. I hope that you've overcome them and are ready for the new season. Horses are getting fit, and you're getting as enthusiastic as ever. We're talking about enthusiasm. On next week's show, we're going to start actually a brand new segment of the Century Club, which is something the Dressage Foundation here in the States has started for riders whose combined age with their horse is over 100. And we're going to bring you the first guest in that new series on next week's show. But on this week's episode, we're going to profile a couple from Great Britain, Rebecca and Gareth Hughes. They are a dressage couple, both competing, both running a business there in the middle of England. And I know they're a very popular couple over there. So we're going to bring you an inside look on that, a successful partnership of Rebecca and Gareth Hughes in just a moment. But before we get to that, we're going to take a short commercial interlude. Laura Noyes is a dressage rider who's currently down in Wellington, although she's based in Maine, and has been a user of Draper Equine Therapist products for some years, haven't you, Laura?
Yeah, I've been with Draper for 4 or 5 years now.
And now, which products do you tend to favour? Which do you use most frequently?
I use their saddle pads every day on every one of my personal horses. I have also some of their blankets that are great, their anti-sweat sheet, as well as some of their products for the legs, like their polo wraps and their standing bandages.
And how many horses do you have that you use them on?
I use them consistently on 2 horses every day.
Right, and you like the durability, obviously, that they do last a long time. How long do you think they typically last for you?
That's one of the greatest things I think about Draper is the quality of the product. Some, they're more expensive perhaps than other products of the same, usage. However, they hold up so unbelievably well. I've had some saddle pads for literally 4 or 5 years that look brand new, and I've washed them 2 or 3 times a week, and they just look, brand new and really, really good quality.
Tell us about the other products that you use, Laura.
I like the blankets a lot. They come in a variety of different weights, and they have stable sheets as well as anti-sweat sheets and turnout sheets and turnout blankets, and the same thing. The quality is just so high. They last, and you can wash them however many times you want. You can clean, and they really are just a very, very well-made product.
And you would recommend them to anyone, obviously, in the dressage world, then, for the quality and durability of the products. And that's Draper Therapies. And they do so many different products there. You can find them all on the website at drapertherapies.com. Laura, thank you very much for joining us this week, and good luck with your dressage down there in Florida.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, joining me now from England is Gareth and Rebecca Hughes. First of all, Gareth, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know that we've got Rebecca with us. You're going to have to be handing the phone back and forth to Rebecca so we can include her in the conversation too. So why don't we say hello to Rebecca as well? Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, now we've got you, I think we'll get a little bit of your story first before we talk to Gareth, because first of all, let's explain exactly where you're located in England.
We have a yard in Warwickshire, which is just off the M40, a couple of miles of there, and we have just moved there a couple of months ago. We've just moved into our own property just a couple of months ago, so it's all a little bit new at the moment. Previously to that, we were living on a property of one of Gareth's sponsors. So, but we've been in a position where we've been able to get our own place and just move there, like I said, a couple of months ago.
Well, so you're freshly moved in. Now where's the village that you're near then?
It's Bishop's Hitchington, which is near Leamington Spa.
Right. Okay, so you moved from Oxfordshire. I think
Yes.
you were in Oxfordshire before, weren't you? Right.
Yes, that's right.
So you're just up the road in Warwickshire.
Yes, probably about half an hour away. We it's not too far from where we lived before, so we're fairly, we know the area fairly well.
Now, where are you from originally, Rebecca?
Oh gosh, I'm from North Yorkshire. I was born in North Yorkshire, and
we'll forgive you for that.
And then when I was actually 6 months old, I moved over to Belgium because of my father's work, and lived there until I was 13. So I was actually brought up French speaking. And lived near Brussels, and then came back when I was 13 years old, back to Yorkshire, and then moved down south sort of after schooling, and then really started the horses then.
Right. Well, certainly there is no hint of a Yorkshire accent.
Or a French one.
Or a French one, this is true.
I would have quite liked to have kept the French accent, I have to say.
Well, I know it's very classy to have a French accent, but it's nice that you're bilingual too, I'm sure, with the international travel that you do now, with you and your husband globe-trotting around Europe with the horses.
Yeah, so it's quite nice to sort of go travelling, and also it's a nice break, from your everyday sort of teaching and riding and so on. So it's quite nice to get a few shows abroad.
Now, what's your background then, Rebecca, in dressage? You didn't marry into it, did you? You have a background in horses before you met your husband.
Yes, absolutely. I run a separate yard actually to Gareth, which is in Buckinghamshire, called Classic Dressage. It's got a fairly successful dressage clothing and retail shop on there. And I was running that, for about 8 years before I met Gareth. And that was my business, was really, riding and competing and teaching and so on before I met Gareth anyway. And it was quite funny how things worked out, actually, because I had one of Gareth's top horses, Sandman. I bought him as a 3-year-old and was riding him myself and campaigned him in young horse classes, but he really was far too big for me. And sort of when we met, he sort of took over the reins, and then it flourished into, obviously a very successful partnership, which is nice.
Well, yes, obviously it didn't do your relationship any harm, did it?
Well, I think he is a little bit too big, and it's quite handy that Gareth is 6'4", so he can have the big ones, really. So no, we both ride and both compete and so on, so we very much do the same sort of thing.
Right. Now, has it always been dressage for you then, Rebecca, or since you were a little girl, or did you try other things first?
I tried a little bit of eventing and hunting and so on, but I used to start off quite well in the dressage, and then it went downhill from there when I tried jumping, so I thought it was probably best to specialise. And when I was, what really turned me really was when I was 17, I won a competition called Talent Spotting Competition, and I think once I sort of won that national title, I decided to to stick to that. Really, it seemed pointless having to go at the other things, which I couldn't do quite so well.
Right, and now, of course, you have a young family. You have a daughter.
Yes, she's 4 years old. She's called Ruby.
Yeah, and have you got her in the tack yet, or does she think she's going to be following in your footsteps?
No, I think Gareth and I sort of feel that she should be begging to be riding, like, we've had when we were younger, and be very, very keen. And, I think, to be honest, riding and horses and so on, it is a luxury. It is, I think it's probably worth waiting until she's a little bit older and understands the value of that, rather than just being handed on a plate, to be honest.
That's
so
right.
Hopefully that'll make her keener, because usually as kids you always want what you can't have.
There you go. That's reverse psychology, isn't it?
Exactly.
All right, well, we're going to find out a little bit more about your husband, Gareth Hughes, now. You were actually born in England, although with your name I wouldn't be at all surprised if you told me you were born in Wales somewhere.
No, not actually. I mean, actually, I was born probably about less than half an hour away from where Rebecca was born, up in Yorkshire.
Really? So you lost your accent when you went over to Australia, did you? Is that?
Yeah, that's right. I was 6, and my dad, through work, got a transfer to Australia, so we, as a family, moved out there and grew up in Oz, lived out there until my early 20s.
Right.
So yeah, my upbringing was very, very, very different being out there.
Yes. Now, tell us a little bit about that story, about going off to Australia. And first of all, being born in Yorkshire, then you are eligible to play cricket for Yorkshire. Would that be a second career?
Well, 2 things that stop me. One, I'm probably a bit old for that now, and 2 is I'm not very good at it. So, but yes, I suppose in another world, another time, yeah, possibly I could. Well, as I say, Dad got a transfer with work out there, and I think, offhand, I think it was initially just for a couple of years. Anyway, we ended up spending, my parents spent about 16 years out there, and I spent about 18 years out there. So very much sort of grew up out there, and, Australia's sort of very similar to America and Canada and things in many ways. It's a large country, it's a very open country. A lot of outdoor activities. We were very lucky. We sort of grew up on had a few acres, sort of 8-9 acres, so on a little bit of land, and like you do, you get a pony. And actually, there was a guy that just moved into the local area, a guy called Trevor Bonney, and he was an all-round performance trainer. He did a lot of in-hand work, Western, showing, English work, harness, you sort of name it. He did a lot of backing of young horses, both mainly in the breed, sort of quarter horses, Appies, Arabs, things like that. And so basically that's what I started off doing. And I did that sort of into my teenage years, and I sort of got into dressage actually sort of more later on in life.
Now, do you have any siblings that were interested as well then, Gareth?
I've got 4 sisters, and being in that sort of situation, we all sort of learnt to ride, but I was the only one that really took it any further. They all sort of, they did a little bit into their early teenage years, I think, and then other interests sort of took hold of them, and but no, I sort of kept going with it, and whether it's because it's the only thing I can do or not, but that kept me in the horses.
The rate that you must have been growing since you're 6'4", you must have outgrown your ponies pretty rapidly, did you?
Well, I didn't really sort of do much on ponies. I actually, right up through into my early 20s, mainly showed in Arabian breed classes. So I did an awful lot with them. I did a little bit of dressage through my teenage years, which actually, again, the interest came through the big Arabian competitions over there, because they have a full performance program, with the dressage up to a fairly decent level, plus all the English, Western, trail classes, costume classes, sports classes, and things like that. So my interest was mainly in the breed. And so I sort of did them. So, yeah, looking back on it, I probably looked a bit funny riding around on the 15-handers.
You moved back to the north of England, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you go back to Yorkshire then when you left Australia?
No, what happened, my parents moved back first, and they moved back down to actually not far from where they lived when they initially moved out to Australia, in an area called Cheshire, which is just west of Manchester. And so a couple of years after that, I was stuck in a little bit of a rut, and I thought, well, it'd be interesting to see a little bit of Europe before I sort of settled down in Australia. So my plan initially was only actually to come over for a couple of years, and that was about 16, 17 years ago.
Right. Where were you actually based in Australia, Gareth?
I was in Brisbane, just south of Brisbane. Right. I grew up in a place called Jimboomba.
Okay, that's a memorable name.
It's a good Aussie name, that one, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Well, you didn't pick up the accent, so I think that's commendable that you didn't actually carry with you either the Australian accent or the Yorkshire accent, and here you are now in Middle England.
Yeah, That's right. That's right. It's sort of funny where time takes you, isn't it?
It certainly is. Well, let's talk about these opportunities that you had to get you into Grand Prix dressage, because I understand you met a certain dressage judge and trainer, Stephen Clark, who has been an influence in your life.
Yeah, that's right. As I say, my parents moved back into Cheshire, and it happened to be about 10 miles away from where Stephen lives. And I'd been over in the country sort of for 12 months, just sort of working on a couple of different yards. And, it's sort of, unless you've got the finances to sort of support yourself, it's sort of trying to work out how to get a break and how to get the ball rolling and things. And, obviously being new in the country as well, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know how it worked, where things happen, things like that. So, we knew Stephen was just down the road. And obviously at that point he was still competing a little bit, and his international career as a judge was really starting to flourish. So I thought, one night, I'll call him. So I rang him up one night and introduced myself, told him what I'd done, asked for a little bit of advice, and he was very nice over the phone, and just sort of normal advice of just sort of keep working and wait for the break, and that was that really. And then about 2 months after that, I got a phone call from him where he had a couple of stallions that had been sent for a bit of training, and he wanted to know whether I'd be interested in coming over and helping him out. So I went over and rode the horses for him, and that was sort of the start of my introduction to Stephen, really. And I did that for a couple of months, and then the stallions went home, and then I went through a period of sort of 12, 18 months where I didn't have a horse, and then eventually I got a ride on a horse. So I got back in touch with Stephen and started having lessons, and then was lucky enough to be based on his yard for a couple of years. So he was my first sort of major influence in the dressage over here. And he's obviously he's a very knowledgeable man. Very experienced, and he's also one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
He certainly is, and what an opportunity for you, Gareth, to launch into the big time. So tell us about the horses that you have now and how you found them, because you've just gone from success to success. I believe you were down in Vidalben in southern France recently.
Yeah, we've just been down in Vidalben, it was okay. I took one horse that had only done one Grand Prix, so he's very new, and I took a mare that I've only been riding for 12 months, and so it was a good run to take them down there and we do 2 internationals over 2 weekends at the one place, so that works well. But unfortunately, at present, my top horse is just off the road, just with a knock at the moment, a horse called Sandman, who did pretty well last year, and he was one of my hopes for a possible Olympic selection this year, so that looks like that possibly could be out at the moment. And then I'm very lucky to have 2 others working at Grand Prix. Mare Madonna, who I've been riding for about 12 months, and a young horse called Doovie, who is owned by one of my very good owners, Anne Newton, and we actually purchased him as a 3-year-old, so I brought him all the way through. And so, it's exciting. They're 3 very good horses, and it's, I think, in the last 12 months I've ridden more Grand Prix tests than anything else, so that's good as well. It gives you lots of experience, and gets you out there doing the job that you want.
Absolutely. So how long will Sandman be off sidelined then?
Hopefully not long now, but it's just the wrong time of year to be off.
Yes, you did. He didn't get that memo, did he, about the...
No, it was sort of, he could have done it another time, but it's just sort of, with leading up to Olympics, the window is very short, when they want to see them out. I think that he'll be back, but I think it could possibly be a bit unfair to be able to, get him back and then push him hard for that. It's one of those things, it might be one of the biggest competition in the world. It's one of those competitions that all athletes aspire to, but, we've got to put the horse first. So I don't think that will be... I don't think that will be an option this year. But, there's always next year and the year after and the year after, so there's lots of competitions left.
Well, that's absolutely true. How old is he now?
He'll be 13 this year, so he's still got a good few years left in him.
Yep. There's also the World Equestrian Games around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's there's nothing we can do about it now unless he comes back a little bit quicker. So we're just waiting to see. And I mean, I think you can plan for these sort of competitions, but horses are horses and things happen, and you just got to play it day by day a bit, really.
So how many horses do you have in your yard altogether, Gareth, now?
In here, what we've done is I know Rebecca was explaining that we've just moved into our own place. So what we've done is we've sort of tried to scale it down a little bit. So we have 15 boxes that we use. We do have other boxes on the yard that for people coming in for training, staying overnight, lessons, things like that. So we give that, we have that opportunity for people. So ourselves, we wanted to keep the barn a little bit smaller, about 15 stables. So I have sort of 8-10 horses that I've got from some youngsters right up to the Grand Prix guys. So it's a good number. We're sort of trying to keep it a little bit more quality than quantity.
And obviously, as you said, you do some teaching as well. Which aspects of the business do you most enjoy then, Gareth? Is it producing the young horses, the bringing the babies along, or the teaching, or the Grand Prix arena?
Oh, God. I enjoy all facets of it. I hate selling. I'm useless at selling horses.
Oh, you're a sentimental guy, are you?
Oh God! Oh, I'd be happy if my horses stayed with me forever. I hate it. I hate selling, and luckily, sort of my weaknesses tend to be Rebecca's strengths. So together we work really, really well. But no, I hate doing that. I do enjoy teaching, but I learned to ride at the very beginning because I loved riding horses. So the main thing is actually I love spending time in the saddle and training horses, and I think I still ride, the babies, the 4-year-olds all the way up, and I enjoy riding a young horse as much as the Grand Prix horses. I just enjoy riding good horses. If it's a good horse, I enjoy riding it.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll all say amen to that sentiment. Now, this year then obviously wasn't going according to Plan A, because the Olympic dream may not be fulfilled this year, Gareth. So what's Plan B? What does your schedule look like for the spring and summer season?
Plan B, I've got these other 2 Grand Prix horses. Doobie is a very, very good horse. The Olympics is still a good few months off. He is a horse that's very capable. It's just that I hadn't planned on aiming him for something like that because of, this is his first season at Grand Prix. But, you never know. So basically my plan at the moment is I'm actually taking it sort of month by month, and I'll see what happens over the next 2.5 months. And depending on where we are, where the horses are at that point, depends on whether then I put myself forward and try and chase a chance of a team place. Unfortunately, we happen to have the strongest team in the world at the moment, which doesn't make it easy. Dressage in this country has sort of boomed in the last couple of years, and we're so lucky to have the 3 amazing horses that we have at the top, and then we actually do have now probably good enough horse and rider combinations to put 2 teams forward.
Yes, it's extraordinary, isn't it? The depth and
it is.
strength.
That makes it it's a little bit harder, and so therefore too, it's not just riding these younger horses at Grand Prix, to get on to even have a look in on that team selection. You have to, they have to be pushed a little, and they have to be ready to be put through that pressure. So, we'll wait. We'll see how it goes in the next couple of months. And, if Doobie steps up to the plate and sort of is excited by it all, and, maybe it's something we can aim for. If not, we'll do a few internationals this year and do a few national shows and get everything ticking along, get a good experience under his belt, and then there's always the Europeans next year.
There certainly is. And that's the great thing about being in Europe. You go from Olympics to Europeans, Worlds to Europeans, and back to Olympics. You've got something every year to aspire to.
Absolutely. There's a major championship every year, but also, beyond that is that we have major competitions every year. There are several major competitions to aspire to, and actually some of those major competitions are as strong, if not stronger, than the major championships. So, it's there's always sort of something there, but I think it's sort of, you have to have goals and aims and everything, but, horses our horses, things do happen. So, I sort of very much just sort of ride and train, and if we're, going well at the right time, then we hit certain competitions, and, you can aim for these as far in advance as you want, but you never really know until, 3 weeks before whether you're actually going.
That's absolutely true.
So I try not to look too far ahead. I have an idea, and I think that, if the training is going right, the horse will arrive at that point when they're ready, and, when they're ready, then they get aimed at the right shows.
That's the only really way to look at it, isn't it, with horses? Absolutely. Well, it's an exciting prospect for you with obviously new facility there and lots of horses. And how much of your time are you spending teaching, Gareth? Because you said you do some of that.
Basically, I have a fairly consistent routine. I do travel out 1 day, sometimes 2 days a week, doing clinics around the country because I enjoy sort of getting off the yard and doing that. But basically, I ride every morning and I teach every afternoon.
Well,
so I don't separate it. If I'm riding, I'm riding. So I ride 6-7 horses every morning. So I start riding first thing, and I just go from one horse to the next. They're sort of walked in and then cooled off for me by the staff, and I just sort of work them through. And then when I finish riding, I teach. So I'm in sort of in riding mode or teaching mode, and that seems to work pretty well. And the horses get into the routine then as well.
Yes. Not much time for anything else then, apart from your young daughter?
Yeah, it's a pretty busy life. I mean, it's a lifestyle choice, isn't it? It's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. And I think that, it's the same with any animals. You can't sort of lock them away at 5 o'clock and go away for the weekend and come back on a Monday morning and start again. So it's a lifestyle. And Rebecca and I, we have a beautiful daughter, Ruby, who's just turned 4, and she, she very much has to sort of fit in with our life, but it's not a bad life for her either. It's outdoors, and she gets to meet a lot of people and go to a lot of places and stuff. So it's. But it's full time. It is full time, and it takes up an awful lot of time and energy and things. So we try and also get away a couple of times a year, even if it's just a long weekend and stuff, so we have a complete break.
It is all about finding the balance, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Because sometimes you forget that actually there is other things going on in the world. So, and it's quite good to sort of do that, because you can step away from it then and think, well, hang on, this isn't the be-all and end-all. There is. Obviously the most important thing to Rebecca and I is Ruby, and that she will always come first. But it's sort of also our family sort of works within the lifestyle that we have.
Yes. Well, it certainly is proving to be a very successful one, Gareth. Well, I'm going to have Rebecca come back on the line and we'll get the final words from her. I want to thank you for joining us. It's been great to talk to you, Gareth, and I'll let Rebecca sign off here for you.
Okay, no, that's an absolute pleasure. It's been lovely talking to you.
We've heard about Gareth's dreams and aspirations. What are your goals?
Oh gosh, probably pretty much the same thing. Probably, it's always, everyone's got their dreams, haven't they, of wanting to get on teams and be doing their bit at Grand Prix internationally. So I'd love to get there, obviously, and obviously I've got a few horses in the pipeline that I'm hoping will have the talent to certainly have, to be able to get there. So yeah. We'll have to see, won't we?
That's right. Now, I guess your time is pretty much spent between managing the business with Gareth, your riding, and do you do some teaching as well now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I run a separate yard as well, which makes it a little bit complicated as far as...
So you're still running that yard while you're here?
Yes, yes. So I basically commute between the two. I mean, it is quite a long way. It's an hour and a half away, so I spend 3 hours a day in the car, listening to a lot of radio, and drinking a lot of coffee. So I set off fairly early. I have a fairly early start. I usually leave at 6 o'clock and get to my yard, and I'm on my first horse about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I usually ride there, the horses. I've got really good competition horses there, actually. And I ride there in the morning and then come back in the afternoon and ride at home. So I sort of have my horses split between the 2 yards.
So who would be your main competition horses right now?
I've got really, a few. One is a sort of small tour, just starting small tour this year, called Cornblom Titan W, and he's sort of just starting PSG into one, so I'm hoping to do a few internationals, small tour with him. And I've got another horse in the pipelines called Rubini Raal, and I'm just about to do my first Prix Saint-Georges on him in a couple of weeks' time, but I'm quite excited about him as he's got a huge talent for the Passage, and it's really natural for him, the Grand Prix movements, so I think I just have to wait until he's strong enough, and hope that, probably a year down the line I'll have a crack at that.
Well, you're certainly leading a very full life between the two of you with all those horses and back and forth between two businesses.
Yes, it's pretty full on. From the minute I leave in the morning to it's on the road and riding all day, and then finishing off, and then a little bit of time with Ruby. In the evening, spending in the evening. So you tend to not stop. It is horses literally all day long.
Wonderful. Well, I want to wish you the very best of luck with your career, and also to Gareth, and thank you both so much for joining me this week.
Thank you very much.
And finally, before we wrap up this week, I want to congratulate my regular co-host here on the show, Heather Blitz, for winning the freestyle with Paragon at the Wellington Classic CDI 3-Star down there in Wellington at the Global Dressage Festival last weekend. A terrific win for her first Grand Prix win. She finished ahead of Canada's Ashley Holzer with Breaking Dawn, a horse that she's hoping to take to the Olympics for Canada. And in the Grand Prix, it was Pop Art with Ashley who took that ahead of Tina Cognac with Collecto, and Heather was third there. Congratulations to them and all of the riders down there in Wellington last weekend. You can follow the link on our show notes to the full extent of the results there. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm going to be starting a brand new segment here on the show next week, and that is going to be the Century Club. It's something that the Dressage Foundation started here in the States. It is about riders who combine with their horses, their partners have reached a wonderful 100 years between them. So I'm looking forward to welcoming my first guest, who is the newest member of that exclusive club, Marilyn Canty from California. She joins me here next week. So until then, that just about wraps it up for me. I want to thank my guests this week, Rebecca and Gareth Hughes, and to Draper Equine Therapies for their generous support of the show. Our show notes, as always, are on dressageradio.com. You can reach me here at chris@horseradionetwork.com. I'm Chris Stafford, and I will be back at the same time, same place next week. So until then, thank you all for listening.